With countless newspapers, magazines, radio and television programs, and websites all covering stories, you're bound to wonder where they come up with all those story ideas. The easy answer is that stuff happens constantly, and it only takes a sharp eye to find it. Breaking news is an unexpected news event. Someone is arrested for assault. A prominent local resident dies in a car accident, a flood, or maybe a fellow student wins the Powerball jackpot. Stories can also come from scheduled events. These can be speakers on campus, legislative sessions, the state fair, Halloween, Valentine's Day, anything you know in advance that's going to happen. Even the first baby of the new year is a scheduled event, although you might not know exactly when it is happening. News releases, also called press releases, are another great place to get story ideas. A news release is information that companies, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, etc., send to newspapers to try to get an announcement printed. Now, in this example from the NC State Technician, the OIT planned security increase story came from a press release. You can tell because the lead begins, "The Office of Information Technology releases plans describing its goals for the year." The other article, "Criminal Producers Visit D.H. Hill," that story came from a scheduled event, learned about through a calendar listing on the NC State Library website. Finally, your ideas help form both news and feature pieces. Maybe you notice everyone in your class is suddenly wearing long, dangly earrings, and you wonder why. Or maybe you've always wanted to know more about what it's like to live in a foreign country. Breaking news is, by definition, unscheduled. So a journalist needs to always be ready to drop everything to get the scoop. The bigger the story, the more you will need to be on scene to help tell that story. Move fast, as time is of the essence as breaking news is unfolding. You want to be on the scene when there's still something to see and people to interview. Now, this one won't be a problem for modern reporters. Always carry a cell phone so you can report back to the newsroom with updates. Finally, if possible, always carry a camera. Now, words can do wonders to capture a reader's attention. But look at this heart-wrenching photo of a young woman being comforted by her father after a fire destroyed her apartment. Now, I don't remember many details of the news story published in the NC State Technician, but years later, I still remember this photo, which later won first place in newspaper photography from the North Carolina College Media Association. The next news idea category is scheduled events. Stories about scheduled events can be advances or previews of the event, telling your readers what will happen so they know if they'd like to attend. Now, the best way to keep track of scheduled events is for your newsroom to keep a long-range calendar. This can be a physical calendar or a Google Calendar that aggregates calendars from your campus, city, and other organizations. Now, when writing a story about a scheduled event, take the time to learn the history of the event. If you're writing a preview of the producers of the Criminal podcast coming to campus that we saw a few slides earlier, write about how the podcast got started, how many people listened to it, and how the talk fits in with the lecture series. Now, for big events like an election or the state fair, team up with photographers and other reporters to help cover multiple angles. As part of my job at NC State Student Media, I get a lot of news releases each week and send out some of my own occasionally. Now, some news releases really are newsworthy and would make excellent stories. These are the ones I forward on to my students for consideration. What you should never do is print a press release exactly as written. A news release is not a news story. It's written to make the company or organization look good while touting their new product, service, award, or event. You'll want to cut out the fluffy marketing and get to the real news. You can usually trust facts that are printed in a news release for news briefs or calendar pieces. But Harrower recommends always double-checking the facts and editing them for balance, context, and fairness when turning a press release into a longer news piece, like the piece on the OIT security that was printed in Technician. Finally, if you can't get in touch with someone to replace the quote printed in the news release, always say, according to a release, or in a prepared statement. It's okay if you don't get to talk to anyone yourself about the story, but make sure that the readers know that.